Today we're gonna make crispy chicken and cabbage with white beans. It is a really hearty, filling meal that feels like, it's crispy chicken and some beautiful seared cabbage. So it feels a little indulgent, but it's actually very good for you all across the board. Veggies, great protein. We're gonna put some beans in there, so even more protein. Wonderfully flavored with garlic and fennel and fresh herbs and a little mustard and a little white wine. It's a whole thing. Let me tell you about this recipe and why I felt so called to make it. I feel like, 10 years ago, someone anointed kale as the cruciferous veggie that we were all gonna fall in love with, and it has held position number one for a very long time. And it shows no signs of going anywhere. But I will say, I feel like there is a sneaky, grassroots movement to elevate cabbage to the heights of kale. I see it everywhere. It's a vegetable. It's a cruciferous vegetable. How are people making me think that cabbage is sexy all the time? I like to think of myself as a veggie fan, but I have really been sold on cabbage. Okay, so I have a nice small head of cabbage here. I just peeled off the outer leaves. If there's any dry pieces or dehydrated leaves, you just take those down. And then I'm just slicing right down through the core. I am gonna leave the core intact actually, because I'll just trim down the the outermost edge of it, because I want the cabbage to roast in wedges. I want it to have enough thickness on it that it's gonna hold some texture, but still have plenty of surface area to get really golden brown and delectable. So call it 2-inch wedges that I'm doing here, 1 to 2 inch wedges. And then we are going to sear these off in a bit of butter and olive oil in our cast iron skillet. I have a humongous cast iron skillet here. It is a 13-inch cast iron skillet. So I'm going to hopefully try to fit as much of these in as possible, but I think I might have to work in batches with the cabbage, just because you don't want to steam them. So you have to provide some space in between the cabbage wedges. Okay, get some butter, and in your enormous cast iron skillet, although obviously you can just do more batches in a smaller one, take a tablespoon of butter and maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I like this combo. I've talked about this before, but butter obviously has milk solids in it, which make it very creamy, give it a wonderful nuttiness as it begins to render and toast those milk solids on the heat. But because of those milk solids, butter can also burn very easily. So I add the olive oil to just give it a little bit more leeway and cushion to avoid the burning of the butter. Just gloss the bottom of our pan with that wonderful toasting butter and olive oil. I'm over a high flame here because these cabbage wedges are just gonna sear this first experience in the hot oil on both sides about 8 minutes, or until they're really brown on one side and still pretty tender. I want these to have nice texture even after they go for their second roast in the oven. Okay, so while the cabbage is browning on the first side, and we will get in there and flip it after that first side's nice and golden brown, has a great crust on it, let's talk about our chicken. I am using bone-in skin-on chicken thighs here, which obviously have the best ability to hold on to moisture. The skin gets nice and crispy in this preparation. The bone infuses it throughout the cooking process, so you get really flavorful, juicy meat. You get a sauce that benefits from all those elements of the chicken. I will tell you, bone-in skin-on chicken breast works well here too. You just have to adjust the cooking time a little bit, and then you get a little bit of a leaner dish, which is lovely. But even if you're going to use chicken breast, I still would keep the bone in, because just you want to help keep it as juicy as possible. Let me flip this cabbage really fast because it's already golden brown. Come see this guy. Woohoo! And you do kind of try to hold these wedges a little bit intact when you flip, just so that they have that pretty shape. It's not a big deal. All right, these are going to be good to go pretty quickly. I cut them a little bit smaller than I have before, so they'll cook fast. Talking about chicken. We are gonna get these extra crispy with a little bath in some white rice flour here. This is sort of the Wondra flour chicken method, where you put the chicken into some really finely milled flour that almost disappears into it as it cooks. It really dissolves, but it does create a gorgeously extra crisp skin experience. So I just have my white rice flour here. If you don't have rice flour, definitely go ahead and use all-purpose flour. It will have a slightly different texture, but not that much. A little salt in the blend, just to make sure we are seasoned on all levels and at every layer. A little salt on our chicken. And you guys know you can always salt the night before and let it just hang out and rest with the salt on it in the fridge uncovered, which is a great way to get maximum drying to happen on your chicken skin. And the drier your chicken skin gets, the crispier it shall be. So if you remember to do that, go for it. And I am just pressing our chicken skin side down into the flour mix here to get it nice and coated. You don't really need to coat the underside. If some gets on it, it's not a big deal, but this is really to dry out that chicken skin and help to get some gorgeous texture and extra crisping on it. All right, let those hang. Let's check on you. Oh, wow, we are ready to go. Get a sheet tray and go ahead and lay your cabbage right onto it. This is gonna end up going in the oven to roast at the same time as your chicken. If you want to, you can cut the wedges a little bit wider and then they will hold intact even better. But the flavor here will be just as phenomenal as always. Look at that. Yum, yum, yum. Golden brown delightfulness. Just by itself, this is already quite delicious. Color like that equals delectable flavor. We are very happy. So after the chicken is dredged in the white rice flour, just give it a little shake. You don't want any big clumps of powder or flour hanging out. And we can just remove these to a plate and let them hang out until we are ready to cook. Next, let's get our onions chopped. This is also a really great weeknight meal because it does come together pretty quickly. We're gonna sear everything off, toss it in the oven, let it finish cooking. Let those flavors meld and blend. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I've got a really small onion here, so I'm gonna do 2 of them. And let's do some garlic while we're over here. Let's do maybe 3 cloves. Yeah. The beautiful thing about this dish is, yes, I am featuring cabbage. Onion and garlic obviously go with everything, but you can really like vary this up. If you want to do a beautiful seared like butternut squash wedges or sweet potato wedges, they work great here too. I am going to just mince this garlic. You could also slice it. Maybe I'll slice it. Why not? We haven't sliced in a while. Not particularly important which way you do. I'm ultimately going to end up using, call it 4 cloves of garlic. And while I have a free moment with my hands, I am going to pull off some lovely fresh thyme, which is going to go in to cook with our beans. I'm using cannellini beans today, these beautiful, very meaty white beans. And I feel like I cannot have cannellini without fresh thyme. So that's the move. I'm also going to, of course, be adding some other herbs in, a little dill, a little parsley coming up later. Okay, check out our beautiful browned cabbage. I just hit it with a little bit of salt, and this is gonna hang out until we're ready to go in the oven. Now, over in the pot, I'm going to quickly just scoop out any little bits from the cabbage, get us back over a medium high flame, just a tiny bit of olive oil here. We really don't need much because the chicken has its own fat that will render, and we are going to brown off this chicken skin. So grab your beautiful thighs, dredged in that rice flour. I'm just gonna drag the olive oil around the pan and stick these bad boys on skin side down and let them begin to sear. Go ahead and shake off any excess flour before you lay it into the pan because it will burn and we don't want that. Woo! There she goes. Those are browning. It should take like 7 to 9 minutes. I'm just looking for a really hard golden brown sear on the skin. Lots of the fat in there to be rendered off so it's really nice and crispy. And then we will pull it out and begin building the rest of our very luxurious onion, garlic, and bean mixture. Okay, so I am being a little bit extra fastidious, neurotic about making sure that the fat is rendered off of the chicken skin on all sides. So I kind of just come in here and sort of stack them up next to each other or along the edges of the pan to really make sure that those sides are not getting neglected. But you'll see, I mean, these are so golden brown and crispy. It's crazy what a little bit of rice flour will create. Look at that. Woo! One thing to note, part of the reason you don't want a ton of extra oil in your pan is it will splatter, just like you saw it happen, and an explosion of hot oil is extremely painful. So you can use a splatter guard to protect yourself if you have one, but just having not too much oil in the pan helps a lot. These are good and ready to go. I'm going to remove them, drop the heat for a sec, grab your beautifully browned and golden and crisp chicken thighs. Look at this. Oh, yum. And you should be able to do the whole TikTok scraping situation. So you know it's super crisp. Let those hang for a second. Into the same hot pan, we are gonna add our onions, which will make a nice noise. And our garlic. Actually, I like to just run the onions around a little bit first to try to kill a little bit of the heat so the garlic doesn't burn, and also scrape up that first batch of any leftover chicken bits. And once these have had a second to enjoy this hot surface, I'm gonna add our garlic in. And a pinch of salt. And also some fennel. I feel like the more traditional move here would be to use caraway seeds. I despise caraway seeds, so I'm using fennel. Just a little bit of fennel goes a long way, so stop yourself from pinching and pinching and pinching away. And then just toss them around. Ooh, you are reminded that the fennel is sweet. When it hits the hot pan, it like blooms this beautiful, yeah, very, very like candied essence. Impressive. Amidst the garlic and the onion. Heat's at like a medium-low right now. I do want to caramelize these onions, but I'm not looking to char them before they've had a chance to release some liquid and start to sweeten. So I also have my delicate garlic in here, so I don't want to go to a high heat and risk bitter, burned, yucky garlic. The onions and garlic have been going about 2 minutes. They're getting lovely and golden brown looking. I'm going to add in our can of cannellini beans now, along with our freshly pulled thyme. And give that a quick stir. Ooh! The beans are drinking up all that flavor from the thyme and the fennel, the garlic, the onion, that rendered chicken fat, that little bit of butter that was left in the pan from when we did the cabbage. The beans are already cooked, of course, so this is really just to let them reheat and start to soak up some of that flavor. In about a minute, I will help myself to about a half cup of white wine and use it to quickly deglaze the bottom of this pan so we are soaking up maximum flavor. This isn't going to be a soupy sauce underneath the chicken. It really is just a like ultra well seasoned bean underlayer to keep it very filling and very good for you, which we love. All right, this looks good. Wine going in. Use that liquid just to scrape up any last little bit of flavor at the base of this pan. And as that perfume of wine evaporates away, we are going to spread our bean mix around and then nestle our lovely crisp-skinned chicken thighs, now skin side up. Oh, did you hear this crunch? I'm sorry. Excuse me. Happy times to come. Okay, wedge them skin side up into your beans to continue and finish up cooking. Keep the skin nice and crisp. Into a 425-degree oven, we are going to put the charred cabbage on the top level and our beans and chicken onto the bottom of our oven. There we go. Beautiful. Cap it up. Probably about 15 minutes. I'll give them a check, make sure that the chicken is cooked. If you're using a thermometer, you're looking for roughly like 160, 162 on the chicken because it will rest all the way up to 165. The cabbage will be tender and have a little bit more charring on it if you want, and you're feeling bold and experimental and timely, you can try the broiler at the final minute just to get it really, really seared and crisp on top of that cabbage, but do so at your own risk and peril because it will burn very fast if you don't watch it perfectly. All right, the chicken is just about ready to come out, so I'm going to quickly chop up some fresh herbs to include parsley. Obviously adds lots of delicious flavor and greenness and freshness, and just is going to help us cut through some of the very rich fatty flavors in this dish. And then sort of inspired by like dill, pickle, cabbage, and I don't know, just like the fact that I like dill a lot, I'm also going to add dill in here, which I think will end up being the perfect balance of fresh leafy greens and rich, sweet, flavorful onion and bean and garlic, juicy chicken. And you don't have to add the dill if you don't want to. I'm sitting here being like, why these three things? And I don't really know. Sometimes I get hit with the inspiration bug and I decide to go with it. And that's what happened here. And they do work really nicely. Let's check on our chicken with a little more thermometer. Once you cut into the chicken, you will know that it's fully cooked because the juices will run clear at the closest part to the bone. But without cutting into your chicken, you can't really feel it because the skin is so nice and crisp. So we are going to use a thermometer just to triple check that we are happy with where our chicken has landed. It's 163 degrees. We are good. We are good to go. Okay, grab your extremely hot and heavy cast iron skillet. Set it to the side. Oh, come see those beans, so brown and lovely. To finish off this sauce, I'm going to just quickly move these to the side for 1 sec. They are so crisp and delicious. Oh my word. Oh, yeah. They're like literally, they are crinkled and crackly as though I fried these chicken pieces. Yeah. Into our beautiful caramelized onions and garlic and beans, I'm going to stir a little bit of mustard, just a teaspoon. I love mustard. And maybe let's do like a half tablespoon of butter just to see. That should be plenty, but wow. Look at how juicy these have become. You have beans with lovely little charred skins on them like this one here or this guy here. Okay, let's taste it. Make sure the seasoning is on point. This is our moment to adjust as needed. Well, it is done. The broiling has begun. 1 minute. Wow, that is so good. I forgot about the fennel seeds. The fennel seeds just like beautifully scent the entire bean mix with that little bit of like a floral component. The mustard makes it tangy. We make it rain with a little bit of parsley, save a little for garnishing. Wow, wow, wow. Talk about a hearty, filling, deliciously healthy meal. Love every bite of this. Scoop this onto your plate. I feel like I'm racing against the broiler clock. Beautiful. Yum, yum. Wow. Love, love. Cabbage, rescue it. Oh my gosh, guys, in the nick of time. Phenomenal. Look at these guys. Yum, yum, yum. And I think rather than put the cabbage onto the plate with the chicken, I kind of want to let it stay as crisp as possible. So I'm going to give it its own little plate over here. Oh my gosh, did you hear the crisp? Did you hear the crinkle on this cabbage leaf? These crunchy, crispy, deep, dark, golden brown cabbage spectaculars. Okay, garnish your beans with a little more fresh parsley, and you have your complete meal. Beautifully white wine, garlic, butter beans with extra crispy chicken thighs and charred cabbage. Dinner served. All right, let's taste. I have to tell you, maybe it's just me. Maybe this is like just my kind of food, But I really do find myself craving sometimes just like a really simple, filling, balanced meal like this. I want like a mountain of cabbage just like that, and then to bury it with something a little bit more rich and crunchy and delicious like this. But like, this is just hitting all the spots for me right now. Okay, so take some of your charred cabbage, lay it down on the plate, a little scoop of our wonderfully seasoned beans, even just the beans, guys. If you are a vegetarian and want to do this without the chicken, make everything else on the bean plate here. So delightful. Look at this crisp chicken. Yum. Just nestle it right on top. Delightful. There's your plate. If you want to make it finished with just a little drizzle of oil on top. And we could get it with just a squeeze of lemon. But we have that mustard in there. I'm telling you, this is an extravagantly well-balanced plate, if I do say so myself. Let's taste. Let's try the chicken first, because we talked a lot about this lovely crisp skin, which in fact is perfection. Oh, look at how juicy this bird is. Check that out. Delightful. And look at that crisp skin here. I mean, salty, crispy chicken thigh needs no introduction. So delightful. Our herby, fennel, mustard, beautiful beans are like textured in places because they really seared on that hot cast iron skillet in the oven, and then very rich and meaty in others. And so bright and tangy with the mustard. Yum. Get some cabbage. I know you're watching this being like, why is this girl trying to make cabbage happen? It's happening. It's so good. As I make cabbage happen, a reason that you desperately need it on the plate here is because the cabbage keeps it really juicy. The beans are obviously really rich and meaty, but they can be a little dry and heavy. You juice it up with the chicken and the crispness of that skin, but the cabbage is what keeps it feeling really nourishing and like you're taking great care of yourself and eating things that you love, which we know is my whole goal. Okay, so put it all together. Chicken, cabbage, bean, and thank me later.